You're listening to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
Well, hello. I am so excited about today because I know that I'm going to get the music I want and it's all going to go to plan because guess what? I'm not in the studio today, folks. So I'm not going to have problems with the mixer because I've got my own system and my own setup. So this is good. Chewy is still with me though, and I have also been reading more of This Much Is True by Miriam Margolyes. I still haven't finished it. I have never had a book that's taken me so long to read. I have been writing an article. It's quite a heavy article. I'm looking at the architecture of the justice system and how it treats people, or rather, ambushes them, for want of a better word. So I've got some songs today about believing in yourself and really, honouring who you are. And we're going to go across a few different genres. We've got everything from Jess Glynn we've got some of my favourites from Morcheeba. We've got some Power of Stella, and we've got a few other bits and pieces thrown in. They are the radio edit, so they are, or they should be clean. I have listened to them, but I'm reading Miriam Margolyes' books. There's nothing clean about it, and I think this is one of the things that really, really impresses me about her. She's just herself. How many of us can say the same? How many of us can say that we show up fully as ourselves? How many of us are willing to shock and offend others just by being ourselves? This is a woman who, she's a self-confessed smutty mouth. She's given us a tell-all. She has got a very, very naughty sense of humour. Is it because she's an actress that she can do this, that she can just show up? I don't know. I've always admired actors and actresses because they can take on this role. And I remember when I did drama when I was at high school, because I knew that I wanted to have my own business. And I knew that with my personality, I don't like walking up to people in a business networking meeting, even now. I'm more of that person that kind of, like to get there early and then let people come up to me. Walking into a room full of people, that's like, I have to really get my game face on with that. And I have to hone in on someone that either I know or looks friendly. Because sometimes people look really scary in business networking meetings. And when I say scary, I mean they're all very serious. As you've probably gathered by now, I don't take myself too seriously. I like serious conversations. I like to go deep because, why be a puddle when you can be an ocean? But there are some people that take adulting a bit too far, don't you think? I think so. It's all overrated, isn't it, really? And if you're going to be responsible, you have to have a little bit of irresponsibility in there somewhere. And you have to have quite a bit of fun, because otherwise, why? Where is the fun in that? If there's no fun, we have to have fun in life. And even if we're living in a nightmare, even if things are really, really bad, we still get the choice. We still get the opportunity to choose joy. We still get the opportunity to just go for a walk. When we are faced with losing everything, as I was several years ago, and, is a real threat to a lot of people in business, even people that have made millions, all these people that have made it, that have got all this prestige. We've seen, Nicolas Cage, look at him. He was one of the most well-paid actors in Hollywood, and lost the lot, was in millions in debt, but he rebuilt himself. Lots of the most successful business owners, entrepreneurs, have rebuilt themselves over and over again, because it's not through always succeeding, it's through the learning from the failures to rebuild yourself. And those of us that are in business, we can reinvent ourselves quite a bit, but it's a lot harder for us sometimes to reinvent ourselves than it is for somebody who works with somebody else. Like with an actor, you're always reinventing yourself. You're learning about different characteristics of the characters that you're playing. You're learning to embody a different part of history or a different part of society, whether it's fictional or whether it's factual. Now, Miriam herself has said that she actually prefers reality rather than fantasy. She didn't mind doing Professor Sprout in the Harry Potter, but she's more into realism than fantasy. And when we reinvent ourselves, it does take courage, because especially when you're a business owner, because everybody gets to know you as one thing. People get to expect a certain thing from you, and there's a pressure for us to perform. There is a pressure for those of us who have made it in a certain sector or have created a certain lifestyle to continue that. And it's something I went through when I sailed around the world and I came back to Britain. And I was no longer sailing around the world. So my audience were like, oh, she's no longer sailing around the world. They weren't really my audience. They weren't really my people. And it took a while for me to understand that. And when I removed myself from social media and I deleted like tens of thousands of people, it was because I realized that they didn't actually care about me. They didn't actually know, they weren't interested in Dawn. They just wanted to say that they were friends with the person who wrote all these books and was sailing around the world writing books, appearing on this and doing this. And that's what they wanted. People live vicariously through us. And sometimes it becomes such a pressure. And we have to show up and perform, and we kind of lose our way. Whereas when you are working for somebody else, you don't always have that pressure. You can just go from one place to another. And the moment that you walk away from a job or you lose a job and you get a new one, you can then reinvent yourself. You can become that new person. And I've been looking at some of the lyrics to the song. Well, I've been looking at all of the lyrics to the songs that I'm going to play today. And I found them really interesting because of what they're actually sharing about the reinvention of self and the acceptance of self and our levels of self-confidence. Um, and I know that we can all do with a bit of a boost, and we're not all perfect, although some of us like to put on a mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now play you the song by Jess Glynn, and it's called Thursday. Although today is a Friday, this song is called Thursday. So I hope that you enjoy this. And after that, I'm going to continue with the conversation. So here you go. Music at the ready, folks. No hassles with the mixer this time. Love that song. I do love that song. I was singing away to that. Chewie started barking, so it obviously was her singing along with me, not moaning about my voice. I'm quite a good singer. I mean, you should hear me when I've got the tunes on in the car, belting them out in the shower as well. I've even been known and told that I've got a very good voice whilst we were all on a boat going, I don't know where we were going. Where were we going? We were in Australia. Oh, we were in a place called Mooloolaba. Now, how's that for a name? And we were sailing up to, where were we sailing to? Cairns. 4-week trip. Fantastic. Via a few islands, obviously, and swim with crocodiles. Now, that's something I didn't think I'd ever hear myself say. I actually swam with crocodiles. Not knowingly, I will be honest. I actually did think the guys I was sailing with were winding me up when they told me that I was swimming with crocodiles. But you see, the thing is, when the captain gets in the water, you're like, yes, it's swim time. So I followed and started swimming around the boat, as you would. I didn't see Paul get back on the boat. No. Ray was having kittens. Literally, like, Dawn, get back on the boat, back on the boat. And Dom was absolutely, he was laughing his head off. You know what I was going to say. He was laughing his head off, trying to, rally with Ray and say, Dawn, get back on the boat. But I'm just swimming, going round and round and round the boat. And then Paul comes back up and says, Dawn, get on the boat. I was like, what? I'm having a swim. He's like, just get on the boat. This is crocodile water. I didn't know that. You got in. Because yes, but I got in and then got out again. So obviously, crocodiles are no threat to Dawn, although I wouldn't like to test it again. But if you do go to Hitchinbrook Island or anywhere near there, do not get in the water. It is crocodile water. And I only found that out when I got into Port Douglas and my friend Tama told me that absolutely, yes, you were in crocodile infested waters, Dawn. But there we go. I've even swum with stingrays and they killed, what's his face? What's his name? Steve Irwin. I nearly called him Crocodile Dundee then, which is really quite interesting because the chapter I'm up to in Miriam's book is called Down Under. And she talks about how it came into her life as an 11-year-old. Now, I haven't actually started this chapter now. I'm actually just on the last few chapters. So I'm hoping I'm going to get it finished before the weekend is over. But it has been interesting to listen to how she was told, to listen to. When I read the chapter about how she titled it, Please Do Not Wear Shorts. Now, there's an interesting story about shorts and people of a larger size. Why is it we never look good in shorts? I mean, they ride up the inner thigh. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. One leg always ends up higher than the other, or you end up with Showtime curtains is what I call them. When they're down at the sides, but on the inside of your legs, they're going up into where the crotch area is. And, I can't imagine that would look very good, especially when you're going for a casting, which is what she did. She went to her casting in a pair of shorts. And then her agent actually contacted her afterwards and says, please don't wear shorts. And this is one of the things that I do love about her. She just shows up. She shows up for herself, in the moment. And if things are a bit tense, she'll say something smutty or she'll say something a bit inappropriate just to break the ice and to shock everybody so they can move through. It's like a metaphorical slap in the face, isn't it? But one of the reasons why I love that song by Jess Glynn is, whether we say beautiful or handsome, we all want to look our best for ourselves. Now, if you're a rocker and you want to have Bon Jovi hair or you want to have the black eyeliner, and you want to go all goth like Marilyn Manson, I think he's goth. I'm not really into that. I loved his take on, what was that song he did? Gosh, I'm going to have to think what that one's called. It was a Marilyn Manson song. And I'm going to have to find it now while we're on air. So Marilyn Manson, America. He was American, wasn't he? I didn't know he was so sober. Apparently, his name is Brian Hugh Warner, and he cut his It was a Sweet Dreams song. Oh my God, sweet dreams are made of these. Absolutely loved that song. Obviously, I'm not singing it like he did. I remember the other one, but. Yeah, interesting guy. I mean, cutting his tongue like that, like a snake tongue. I'm sure the ladies are very happy. I've probably been reading this book a bit too long, ladies and gentlemen, but no, but if you know me, you know I'm not that far removed from Miriam Goyles, which is probably why I've enjoyed the book so much. But one of the things that she said, she didn't really like going to the premieres because, and she's never actually, even though she's appeared in 2 of the Harry Potter films, she's never actually seen one of the films all the way through. Isn't that interesting? And I do find that, this reinvention that she's had of herself, it was, all the different roles that she's played and all of the different Whether it's been voice acting or which I actually got offered a job today, voice acting. Not something I want to go into, but especially when there are three characters and you've got to make them all really, really different. And I don't think I could do that. But she was on the radio and did adverts. She was the Cadbury's caramel bunny. I was shocked at that. I'd never have put her with that. But she was also the monkeys in the Thai food tea bag advert. I mean, you couldn't get to. I mean, bar of chocolate with a cup of tea, not going to say no. But again, it's about this confidence to do all of these different voices and all of these different accents and really embody the characters. Like when she did Dickensian women, oh my gosh, oh, just. I mean, I'm a big fan of Dickens, absolutely big, especially Bleak House. And one of the reasons why I love Bleak House is because I grew up in Lincolnshire. I'm what they call a Lincolnshire yellow belly. And they were actually cowards. That one of the reasons why the Lincolnshire soldiers were actually given the name Lincolnshire yellow bellies is because they showed great cowardice. And which is again nothing that Miriam. But then when you read her book, you do see a lot of her insecurities come on show, and but she then when she goes up on stage, she's got this mask. And that's one of the reasons why I did drama, because I knew that if I was going to be successful in business, I had to be able to perform. I had to be able to stand on stages and speak. I knew that I had to deliver content. I knew that I would have to become the businesswoman and then retreat into myself. Even at that age, I knew. So I'm going to play another song now, and it's a Demi Lovato one, and it's called Confident. And I mean, I quite like it because our friend from Fast and Furious is in there in the video, but this is Demi Lovato with Confident.
You're listening to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
That was the news and the weather and all the ads that you've had this morning. Now, as I said before we were going in, one of the reasons why I like that Confident track, not just because of the lyrics, about, where she's starting to own who she is and she's not going to be bullied by anybody else. And again, that was very much the same with Miriam Margolyes in her book. But because it's got the fabulous Michelle Rodriguez in it. Now, I absolutely think she's brilliant. She is original name is Matey, and she's just brilliant. I mean, when you look at the amount of movies that this woman has done, I mean, like 50 plus movies, that is like a career and a half. That is huge, and I don't think that includes the that does not include the Fast and Furious movies. So that's 60 movies that she's done. She's never been married, and I would guess that that when you're that big of a star, people do want to know about your private life. And I was thinking about this because one of the things about being a writer that I've struggled with and a published author is the publicity. I write my books because I want to actually share information with people that will help them either have more hope, more confidence in in dealing with life's challenges. I write about really, I think, powerful subjects in the sense that I could write a love story, I could write fantasy, and I know that, I mean, I enjoy a great book. I don't care what kind of genre it is. I mean, I never thought I'd love science fiction. But then I picked up a Mary Doria Russell book, The Sparrow and the Hand of God. Oh my gosh, if you have not been able to get into science fiction, Mary Doria Russell, absolutely. I couldn't put the books down. And I know that with fiction, we can actually talk about a lot of subjects that non-fiction writers talk about. Those people that write about the similar subjects to me, such as Ella Shafak and Doris Lessing. These powerful women were able to write about certain things that I write about as a non-fiction author, but they sell more books because one, it could be that they, right place, right time. They knew the right people. They got published by, bigger publishing houses. But one of the things I found when I was published by a larger publishing house was that they wanted to water down my voice. Now, I have a mission to help support 1 million authors, and that mission has been with me for quite a number of years. Now, I know I can't coach everybody on a one-to-one basis and then achieve 1 million authors. I know that. But I do know that through my Author Academy and through this show and through my podcast and all my YouTube channels, I know that by me sharing my ideas and the love of literature and my experience and the resources that I've created, I know that I can support more people. But with that, I have to show up. I can't hide in the background. I cannot hide who I am. I have to be on stages. I have to be on podcasts. I have to show up on social media. Because if I want to be able to support people, they have to know that I exist. They have to know that my resources exist. But it's getting that balance of a private life, writing about the subjects that I write about, and being able to still be in the spotlight. And that balance is really challenging, especially when we've got certain insecurities. Now, some of you will have heard, like on previous weeks, that I've really struggled to get a doctor's appointment. And we all know that it's becoming more and more challenging here in Britain, and that the NHS is stretched. We know that, and we know that the doctors and nurses that work within the NHS are doing a fabulous job with the resources that they've got. And but it can be really hard when you are ill and you don't know what's wrong with you, but you know that there's something, or you've got mental health issues and you really need to speak to somebody, but you're having to be on a waiting list for 6, 12, 18 months, and then you only get 3 months worth of therapy. Or it might be that you've been given the wrong diagnosis, or that you've been told that you'll never walk again, or that you've only got so many months or years to live. Those things can really, really get in your head. And it's about, what do I do with that information? What do I take from that? Am I going to rely on a system that is stretched, or am I going to go and seek alternatives? Am I going to do some of the deep inner work? And the next song that I'm going to play for you actually talks about, the ability to face yourself. It talks about doing that deep inner work. Now, it's not Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. We've already played that. And I am doing my best to actually pick songs that I haven't played before, which I know that because there is such a plethora of songs out there, and songwriting is very, very important. But if we're not willing to face who we are and get over who we are and our own insecurities, because if we're not comfortable with who we are and we get the choice to do something about it, we get the opportunity to grow. Now, whether you've read anything by Bob Proctor, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life, or you've read anything from, Hay House Publishing on personal development, or you have just been in and around a group of people that will encourage you to become the best version of yourself, then it can be really difficult to love yourself. But this next song is by Teddy Swims, and it's called Face Yourself. Now, you can probably tell why I played that song, because he really did, when you write lyrics like that, you know that someone's had a journey. Because this is where writing comes from. It comes from those depths of self, those moments of insecurities, the dark nights of the soul. And as I was saying before I played, the song, that unless you've grown up around people supporting you and encouraging you and really cheering you on to become the very best version of yourself, or unless you've made that choice early on in life that history is not going to repeat itself, that you are not going to allow the past to predict the future. Unless you're in that space, it can be incredibly hard to get out of it. And this is one of the reasons why I write the books that I write, and people like Teddy write the songs that he does, and Miriam writes the books that she does, because she's saying, this is who I am, this is what I've been through, and this is what it took to get to who I am today. And this is the beauty of us failing and starting again, and being, the amount of rejections that people get. And I remember when I first started publishing other people's work, there was one particular author who wanted to have her book published, and the previous publisher, when I found out what the previous publisher had done, when I finished the call, it really, I had to take a moment, because one, I was angry. Two, I was really upset that another publisher could do that to someone. And it's very often that when you are within the publishing world, people have this thing, oh, I'm just too busy to read. But you would think in the publishing world that people would be reading. But the publishing world is like no other, is just like any other industry. You have the people who love to read, but then you have the people that are in the sales department, the marketing department, the accounts department, IT department. Every large company and small company has a department that deals with a certain section of the business. They're not really, some of them are not really interested in books. They're just there to do the IT, or they're just there to do the accounts. And there are very few people within a big publishing company that actually love to read. I find it shocking. And, I am a member of the Independent Publishers Guild, and I've spoken to a lot of individuals at some very large publishing houses and the self-publishing houses, or the self-publishing companies. And I was shocked, because I naively thought that everyone in publishing would love books. I was so naive. I was so wet behind the ears, because I'm a reader. I think everybody loves books. Why would you not love a book? I mean, seriously. But then people say the same to me. Dawn, why do you not like TV? I'm like, well, have you seen it? I mean, there are a few series that I have been that people have recommended to me that I've watched, but even when I'm watching a TV series, like on Netflix or something, I'm looking at the writing. So when I was looking at Yellowstone, obviously I was admiring Rip, what healthy red-blooded woman wouldn't do, and but I was looking at the writing, I was looking at the characterization, and I was looking at how the wardrobes were put together and the scenes unfolded, and how each episode had the hook that led you into the next one. And I can't switch that off. I will go and watch a movie like I did last week, and I was looking at I watched The Devil's Wears Prada too. I went to the 12 o'clock showing, and I thought it was very clever, because it actually made fun of itself and the industry, the fashion industry, on a whole other level. But it actually tackled quite a number of social issues, which it had to do. It had to do that, but it was still a light-hearted movie. It tackled serious subjects, it tackled the career, it tackled the changes in people and how these people had reinvented themselves, but also the loyalty of some people. Like Stanley Tucci, the loyalty that he showed to Meryl Streep's character Miranda, you just think, gosh, there are people out there that are that loyal to an organization, or that loyal to an individual at the sake of their own success. But sometimes they're the ones that are quietly successful. They don't like the limelight. And his character resonated with me because whilst I'm there cheerleading a lot of other people, like a lot of us do, I don't really like the spotlight. Even at my wedding, when we were in Egypt, my mother-in-law gave me a traditional Arabic wedding, very Egyptian, where, the bride and groom were sat on two thrones on a stage. It wasn't just a Posh and Becks thing, it was a very Arabic thing, a very Egyptian thing, or of a certain socioeconomic sector of Egypt. And I was like, I don't want to be sat up here. I want to be sat over there with my friends. They're like, but Dawn, you're the bride. I'm like, yeah, I know, but don't really want to be sat up here. I didn't like the limelight then. I don't really like it now. And this is one of the reasons why I love writing and being on radio, because you can't see my face unless you go to the website and unless you've done Googled my name or anything like that. And then people get to see what I look like. But one of the things I did when I was traveling the world is I changed my hair color quite a lot, or my hairstyle, and because it was easy to blend in. But when you're traveling, no one really knows who you are. And then unfortunately, you kind of get to a part of your career where you can be sat quietly in a bookshop having a cup of tea writing your next book, and you get recognised. I had been in Port Douglas less than 24 hours and I was recognised. And even when my boys were younger and I was starting out in my career, I remember sitting in there's play warehouses, and the boys were playing on the ball pit and on the climbing frames and everything, and they just worn me out. So I'd actually just sat down and actually thought, oh, I'm just gonna have a cup of tea while the boys play, and I'll get some work done. Because my boys gave me permission to have half an hour, because during their time they did, they had their time with mummy, but just sat there. I got recognised because I'd written an article in the newspaper. My picture was all out, and it is something that we have to get used to. We have to face who we are. We have to be comfortable in our own skin, and we have to be able to perform at a moment's notice. So when those people recognise me, it was like, oh, hi, yes, and it doesn't matter what was going on in my head at the moment or what I was in the middle of thinking about. I still had to be polite. Now, Miriam, and the reason why I'm leading to this, and why I'm discussing all of this, is because Miriam talks about the time when she was in the hotel. I've got to put my glasses on because I'm going to read something. Bear with me one second. And it's about when she was on Harry Potter, and they were on location, and Peter McClellan was really quite rude to her. And she didn't know why. And he said something to her that was really, it's just, I'm not going to be able to say it on radio, but he he told her in no uncertain terms, should we say, go away? And then she said, I had no idea of why he would do this. She didn't know that she'd done anything wrong. And he was sat with Maggie Smith. And what she actually found out afterwards, that he'd had the flu. But does that give him the right to be incredibly rude to somebody and tell them to, should we say, duck off? And I always found that the more people that recognise you, the more you have to be on your guard when out and about. And as a mother of small children, there was a time when I was in a greengrocer's with somebody, and the boys and I had a food fight the night before. We'd been making fish and chips, and Nartha, my youngest, had flicked some batter at me, and we'd been messing about, and we'd had such a great time. And then the next day we were in a fruit and veg shop, and Nartha was being, should we say, challenging. If you don't go and get that, I'm going to batter you. And this woman overheard me. Nasa laughed and ran off to get the fruit that I was asking for. But this woman started to have a go at me. And she goes, I'm going to report you for saying this and that to your threatening to batter your children. I was like, what? And I hadn't realised what I'd said. And this is one of the downsides of actually being in the spotlight. And so when we have someone like Miriam and all of these really famous people who are getting the bigger paychecks and the bigger jobs because they are willing to be recognised and they are willing to be themselves, I really do think that that commands a level of respect, because a lot of us can't even be ourselves in a relationship with the person we're married to, or we can't be ourselves with our family, we can't be ourselves with people that we've chosen to be friends with, and we certainly can't be ourselves when we choose to work for somebody else. So this next song is one that I love. Again, you'll recognise the band. These are one of my favourite bands. This is Morcheeba, and the song is actually called "Be Yourself," because I think we all need to be a bit more ourselves, but also understand that telling someone to duck off just because we've got the flu is not really appropriate, Mr. Ian McClellan. So here we go.
You're listening to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
That was such a good song. Just be yourself. Now, how many of us would love to be ourselves? How many of us can be ourselves wherever we are, in any environment, show up as we are? Now, one of the things that we're looking at this month in the Author Academy, the curriculum that I do, it's quite interesting, because what we're actually looking at is how we can dismantle the productivity myth. Because a lot of people like to say that they're busy. They get into this thing called stress jealousy. I'm busy, I'm really stressed. And it's just so that they make themselves look better. But really, like, the productivity, the busyness, is it productivity? And is what you're doing making it sustainable? Now, when we're working on a business, we can actually allow ourselves to step back. And whether you're an actress, a songwriter, script writer, an author, a journalist, a writer, anybody that's got anything to do with literary world, I mean the creatives within the literary world, you really do have to give yourself some time to step away and understand how you're growing your business, because it is a business. Whether you remain a freelancer or someone who's self-employed, or you've got an agent working for you, you are still running a business, and you have to make it sustainable. You have to make sure that you are knowing how to charge for your time. You need to know what your contracts say. You need to know, get all your admin sorted, your taxes. These are not things that we think about when we go, oh, I'm going to write a book. Oh, I've got to sort out my taxes. Okay, what tax is it? Is it educational? Okay, is it a VAT? No VAT, because it's educational, because there's books. You've got to know these things. And alongside of that, as we go through this month in the Literary Land, it is about taking care of yourself. Because if we get so swamped up in the productivity in the busyness and the stress jealousy, and we're not being productive, then our business suffers and our writing suffers. I have to take time out to be able to go and write. Now, this week I've been working on an article, as I said, and it's about how the legal system is not set up to handle people who face trauma. I'm having to be really careful about what I write, referencing things, getting historical context in, case law in. Because whatever I put out there, I have to be able to back up what I'm writing. Not so much if you're writing fiction, but when you're doing that, you can be sat on your backside for a long time, and you're in the doom of, well, I call it the rabbit hole. Some people would call it the doom of research. I'm like, no, I love it. But you can get lost in there, click this link, it takes you in, like, ooh, where's that going? And that's the thing, it's about making sure that you are taking care of yourself. So today I've been to the gym, I've done my body pump down at Cardiff Bay Pure Gym, love it, thank you, Sinead. Going to Burn tomorrow, might not be able to walk, but that's okay. I don't have fear of that. because in week 3 we're going to be looking at the fear and the avoidance. Now, as I was saying a few moments ago, I have avoided having a public life because I've wanted a private life, mainly to protect my children. But now they're grown up. They're, yes, they've got Arabic names, names that are foreign to mine, that not don't match mine. So a lot of people wouldn't put us together. But still, those people that have read my books, and they will see Khaled and Nasser's name there, and I don't even share pictures of my sons on social media because I've wanted to protect them. Um, but now that they're older, they're living their own lives, it's like now I get to show up because my values mattered. And it wasn't that I wanted to avoid being on stages in the sense that I didn't want to speak and have, I've stood on stages in front of 20,000 people and asked them for their money for a charity fundraiser. I organised my own, the very first fashion and lifestyle event in Sheffield in 2009, and stood there in front of all those people looking like the bloody genie that escaped the lamp because somebody designed my outfit, and it was just horrendous. I really was so I cried my eyes out when she bought me that outfit. I was just like, oh my gosh. I had only just overcome pregnancy and a fatal illness, but there we go. But again, it's about I had to show up. I was the host of that event. I had been working on it. It was something that I said I was going to do. You show up. And it's about making sure that everything that you're doing works towards a prize of some sort, whether it's a literary prize or whether it's, an award for something, or whether it's the prize you're going to give yourself. So I'm going to make sure that I get, I don't know, let's just say 1,000 followers on Instagram, or 10,000 or 50,000 or 100,000, or I'm going to make 100,000 this year, or I'm going to make 50,000 this year, or I'm going to win these amount of awards this year. Whatever your goals are, how are you rewarding yourself? How are you making sure that your progress is productive and sustainable? Because if all you're doing is writing day in, day out, and you're not actually researching the content or taking a break. I mean, I read for a hobby as well as for work. Now, my friend, you heard me speaking about Derek a number of times, Derek Brady, I know you're listening. Chopsy, he calls me. Thank you. He's like, Dawn, do something different because you're always reading. I'm like, yeah, love it. So he made sure I've got plenty of fiction books, books that are not related to crime or death or corruption or anything. And I'm like, yeah, but I like those books. And I need to read things that are different. Hence why but then I also write memoirs. I help people write their books. So the fact that I'm reading Miriam's memoir is, I find it quite amusing. But again, we need to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and we're actually showing up, and we have to ignore the haters. And we just have to allow ourselves to be ourselves. And this next song is called Let Me Be, and it's by Second Voice. So I think it ties in quite nicely. Do you know, when I hear that song, I just feel myself closing my eyes and just dancing. And that was one of the things I loved about raving. It was just me and the heartbeat of the music. I would close my eyes. I didn't even know who was around me. I didn't care. It was just me and the music. And that's one of the reasons why I love dance music. Now, when some people first hear that, they go, it's quite an erotic song. But it isn't. If you're listening to the music and you're listening to the words, it's actually focusing on like just releasing and like just allowing yourself to be. I mean, that's why it's called Let Me Be. And like I said, when I used to go raving, it was like such a taboo thing. Like you couldn't tell people you were going raving. And I actually remember being at home one weekend, one of the very rare weekends, and there was this news article about how ravers had completely destroyed this field and da 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 da. And I was like, that's not accurate. And my mum and dad just looked at me like, what do you know about it? I went, well, I was there. They're like, "You're at a rave." I was like, "Well, we don't really call it a rave. We just had a party." But that farmer knew that we had that field. The farmer gave us the field to party in. And afterwards, we all did a litter pick and we cleared up the site. That site did not look like that when we left. And I was one of the last to leave because I knew the people with the sound system. But it's the reporting of things and our own interpretation, because there was such a political movement to ban raves and to ban drugs and to lump them all in together. Um, I mean, we've all heard of police planting drugs on people, or planting evidence to secure a conviction, whether it's the right one or not. And government agendas and political agendas, like, being pushed forward, and the truth being manipulated, and stories in the press. But going back to the song, when you listen to it, and you just feel the sway of that music, and your eyes are closed, and I just feel like my arms are going up in the air, and I'm just releasing. And it's about escaping, what people expect of you. We don't dance. This is why I said you wouldn't want to see me on stage, because I don't choreograph. I don't have a dance routine. I just let the music take me wherever the music wants to take me. And it's about being in that moment and allowing your body to move with the heartbeat of the music. And I remember when I moved to Egypt, and I think I wrote about this in Wallahi, my second book, about how when I was listening to some of the music in the Belody areas, and I was like, yeah, I can completely understand why Ramo, who's my ex-husband, I can completely understand why he got into techno. Because some of the Arabic tunes that were played, I was like, oh my God, Marky G would be having a great time here right now. Absolutely. And I just love this music. It just speaks to my soul on so many levels. Oh, I just want to play it again. I'm not going to, though. I really am not, because I am going to play another song, similar vibe. We are coming into the weekend, obviously, and it's a song that, at the beginning it was like, just believe in yourself. We're going through that transition. We want to have a change of who we are and facing ourselves and this reinvention of self. And you find something that works. Now, when I came back to Britain, I had a lot of stuff that I needed to sort out. I came back to Britain to sort these things out, and what has happened as a result of those has been, I nearly swore. I really have to be careful on radio. This is why I love my podcast, because I don't have to worry about, Ofcom rules and all of those kind of things, and why why I'm not so much I don't make as many appearances on the BBC as I once did, and for other reasons. If you've read any of my stuff, you'll know why. But this has been an incredible journey here. I mean, my friends have said to me, Dawn, it's like you're allergic to being in Britain. Something always happens. I'm like, I know, right? I can travel the world by sailboat on my own, do incredible things, and nothing happens. I come back to Britain and boom. But that's okay, because some really great things have happened along the way. Like, I've got my radio show here now, and I'm talking with you, and, we're looking at the statistics and the figures, like on the YouTube channel, and we're looking at the podcasting platform. I use Blueberry, and, looking at the figures on like Spotify, and, where my listeners are coming from around the world. And I'm just like, wow, that many people listen to this show, and I'm so grateful to each and every single one of you. I'm so grateful to everybody who subscribes to my email list, and and just joins me every week, and when they read my emails they respond to me. And it's like, sometimes, and this is why I was saying in the Author Academy, we talk about sustainability, we talk about taking care of yourself, because I know that when I get researching a book or I'm writing, I can be there for hours. I mean, I know I'm not the only one that's working and it doesn't feel like work. It's a passion, and we can be there on the laptop or on the computer, and we're working away, having a great time, and then we look up and it's like, oh, it's really dark. Better put some lights on, because we've been so absorbed in what we're doing. Um, and if you're in the studio and you're making music, and I've seen this with my friends, and when we've been in the studios together, and I've not been allowed near the mixers, um, Simon, and Dawn, don't touch that. I had that said to me on numerous occasions. The fact that I sit in the studio and I've got all those screens in front of me and a mixer and a keyboard and all those cables, it's a big thing, and my friends are quite impressed with me, I should tell you this much. But the sustainability of what it is to take care of ourselves. I've always said that author arse is a thing, and you do have to move, you do have to get outside, and you do have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your relationships. I'm looking at judicial ethics and complaint procedures at the moment, because as a part of my book, Crossing the Line, where I made a complaint against a judge, and I actually detailed how I went about that and what happened, and my response to that. If you know me, you probably guess what my response to that was. I'm like, really, seriously, you're going to reject this complaint and leave the same judge in? I don't think so. I really went to town on this complaint, and it did do me some good, but it also didn't. But you'll have to read the book to find out why. But again, when you're looking at the judicial ethics and complaint procedures, and you're looking at the ethics of policing, even when you look at I used to be a police assessor, and at that time I was working with an organization called Centrix, and we would be looking at what the ethics were of being a police officer. I would have to look at the College of Policing documentation. I would look at the what I didn't look at. I'd have to look at different case laws and combine those. I had to look at the something called pattern behavior descriptions. We'd have, and these are things that when you go down the rabbit hole of law, and justice and government, and you are taking those on, as I have done in a number of my books, and you've exposed the corruption of, like I did in Wallahi, and I've done in Crossing the Line, and I will be doing in the Mothers Like You book, and also a future book. You have to have a level of courage. And sometimes I wonder why I have that much courage to take on the system and write about the subjects that I have done, and sail the world by myself and travel the world as a solo female, and yet showing up on social media sometimes scares a lot. I'm like, I'm not putting that out there. And I was thinking about it the other day, because I'm diving deep in with some of my own journaling questions, and I'm like, okay, why is it I don't want to show up on social media as myself? I'm like, because I just can't be bothered with the drama. I just really can't. And then it's like, well, I don't really have to deal with it, do I? I can just ignore it. And I've been looking at how other people are handling it, and how they ignore certain comments, and how they then repurpose the negative comments in future posts, just like I do in marketing. And I was like, oh, that's obvious. And it's sometimes when that penny clicks and you actually start to find your way into a new life, or a new challenge, or that next level of your career, or that next level of success, or that next level of relationship. It might be that you're afraid of getting your heart broken again, and so that's why you want to stay single, or you keep choosing the wrong people, or the same kind of person. Like they say, same meat, different gravy. And it's about us really taking our lives to the next level, discovering who we are, finding a way of showing up as our best self to achieve all the things that we've ever desired, and doing it in a way that works for us. Now, this next song and tune that I'm going to play is by Orenza, and it is called Find My Way. Now, I'm going to give a shout out to Holly Watt. She's a brilliant woman. I love her. Known her for many years. I mentioned her last week with her journal that she did, You But Better. And she played this song on one of her stories, and this is Orenza, Find My Way.
You're listening to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
Oh, didn't you just love that song? Just, again, close your eyes and just let the music take you and just feel your body moving and swaying. And, even if you're in the office right now, or you're walking to the coffee machine or whatever it is you're doing, I do not recommend you close your eyes while you're driving. Please do not do that. I do not want to be responsible for any car accidents. But if you're safe somewhere else, or, just download the song. Just go onto Spotify, find it, and just turn it up and let it just take you wherever you need it to take you. Now, we're coming into the last part of the show. As you can tell, when I have access to my music, the show flows a lot more. There's a lot more. Yeah, it just feels so much easier. And because I do plan these shows and I do put a lot of effort into them. And as you can probably tell, there's quite a lot of research into the song lyrics. Now, these are just 8 of the songs I listen to. Now, I do have, as you can tell, a rather eclectic taste in music. If you saw my Spotify lists, I have loads of lists, all categorized. And I'm creating my own Radio Cardiff playlist. And one of the things I wanted to do is actually get to the point where I'm going to share my Radio Cardiff playlist. So if you're liking the songs that I play and you would like access to them, then, if you're following me on LinkedIn, if you're following me on any of the socials, then just let me know that you want to have access to my playlist and I'll share it with you. It's actually going to be going up on my website because I am actually creating a Radio Cardiff section on the listeners page of my website. So the playlist will go on there, so you'll have access to all my songs. Well, they're not my songs, obviously, but my choices of music. Okay, so as we come into the final parts of the show, we've got, what do we got to cover? Well, today has all been about the confidence and loving your journey, loving yourself, accepting yourself as you are, showing up, reinventing yourself, and going on these journeys. Now, over the weeks, you've heard me say that some of the songs that I've seen have always been about loving someone else and needing their permission. But I always manage to get you to, or invite you to actually, when you're thinking of that love song for somebody else, imagine that you are that someone else and play that love song to yourself. Because you should be more in love with yourself than anyone else, even your children. Now, I know that's quite a controversial statement, but if we don't love ourselves so much and we are full of love for ourselves, we're not going to be able to teach our kids to be in love with themselves. We're not going to be able to teach them how to love us. And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned as a mother. There is things like everything I do is for my children, but no, ultimately, everything I do is for myself. Because I want them to be proud of me. I want that satisfaction that my children are proud. Oh, how egotistical am I? I want to know I've done a good job of raising them. And I can only do a great job of raising them if I'm providing for them and I'm making sure that they are responsible for themselves, that they are happy and competent and confident and trustworthy and respectful, and that they know how to have fun and they know how to handle challenging situations, and they know how to assess risk, and all of those life skills that they need, such as being able to cook for themselves and clean for themselves. I mean, goodness gracious, there are enough women breaking their own back to sort out their own life without having to be with men who were not raised properly, or who expect them or expect their wife to be their new mother. No, just no. We are not your mother, or as J-Lo says, I ain't your mama. No, I'm not going to play that song, but that might be another show for another, that might be another song for another day. But the songwriting of today, it is improving, I think. I think. Um, I have been on this journey of looking at songs, and well, we need more songs that are more. But the problem is the ones that I can play on the radio. Like, I would love to play you some of Esme, like this Celtic, energetic music that's really powerful. But it just, I'm not allowed to play it. Not allowed to play it, and it's just like, "Grr." So if you want to listen to Esme, there's one song that I love. It talks about Duck being a princess. Um, I'd rather be a witch. Love the energy of that song. And again, it's just about embodying those songs that really take you from those moments where you are in doubt. Have a playlist. Have a playlist that gets you up and dance, that gets you to feel energized. Now, there's one song that I love that I always, whenever I hear it, I just have to get up and dance, and it's Footloose. It's just, if that song is on somewhere, then I gotta move. Like, something happens. It's not a rave tune. It's not a drum and bass tune. It is a song from the past. In, I think it was like the 70s or early 80s, and I just can't not dance to it. Um, it's just amazing. I'm not going to play that either. But again, it's about, you know, letting loose and finding your freedom, and just loving you and loving the life that you're creating for yourself. And, it is going to be hard if you haven't had that support, as I've said before. But if you take anything from today's show, go and get the book Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. It does come with a workbook. If you're trying to change your finances, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Go and buy that one, or get the Born Rich by Bob Proctor. These are great books. They don't cost a lot of money, but they will transform your life. And like I said, if you can listen to a love song, fall in love with yourself. This next song will help you do that. Oh, again, another soothing song calling you forward. And I just want to go over those lyrics with you because it says it says I'm in another place. That's your highest version of self. It's in that place in the future, waiting for you to arrive there. It's already there. You've just got to get there. And you know you can do it because when you see it everywhere, there's another lyric in there that's saying everywhere you go, it's in your mind. Um, it's always in my mind wherever I go. And this is your highest version of self. It's that dream you are wanting. It's that job you want, that relationship you want, that house you want, that adventure you want, that dog you want, that dinner you want. If you can go and make yourself dinner, and make that meal that you really want, or you can go and give your dog everything that you want to give. You can do it for yourself. If you can give your kids everything that they can wish for and everything that they can ask for, you can give it to yourself. If you can work relentlessly for a boss that doesn't appreciate you in an environment that doesn't make you happy, imagine how much you could deliver to yourself if you were in that environment that just fueled everything that fueled your creativity, it just fueled your excitement. And this is the thing, it's like dreams are there to be lived. There's this cliche thing, if you can dream it, you can do it. And you absolutely can. There are things that, I made a list when I was 16 of all the things that I wanted to achieve by when. And that was by the age of 40. By the age of 27, I'm sat outside my friend Alex's house in Derby, crying my eyes out. I don't know what to do. He said, make another list. So I did. This time, all the goals up until the age of 50. Smashed them by the time I was 35. Got divorced a year later. But obviously, I needed to get divorced for all the things I wanted to achieve to happen. The things that we think are falling apart is just the cocoon dismantling for us to actually for everything to fall into place. It's like, just imagine it's like that butterfly. Like they say, very cliche, this one, next one, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelette. Now, I do like it. I'm quite partial to an omelette. I do like an omelette. But it's like when things do fall apart or when things go really badly wrong, we can either sit in that victimhood or we can actually go, this didn't happen to me, because that's victimhood. This happened for me, so we can deal with the ego and learn from it. And then we can shift beyond that. And this is happening through me. This is when we get to alchemize everything that we've been through, take all of those lessons and then share it with other people, whether it's through books, whether it's through song or theatre plays or radio plays or film, like I'm reading about with Miriam Margolyes. And people say, oh, but this is not for me. I don't have the time to read. I don't have the time to write. Yes, you do. You just don't make time for yourself. If you really want to read that book, you are going to set a meeting with yourself every day to read that book. Now, this week I have made the intention of sitting down and reading, or making sure I go to bed half an hour earlier so I can read the book. I didn't do that last week. I had a bit of an off week. I was hit by a lot of past memories, rewriting, crossing the line and going, you know what, I've been through so much, but look at how much stronger I am. And I had to process all those emotions. And, this is the next version of self. This is me looking back at what I've achieved and what I was able to achieve in one of the hardest, most challenging parts of my life. And if I managed to achieve all of that during that time, when I remember sliding down the wall, crying my eyes out, making noise that I didn't think my voice and my body could make, I never knew pain like it. No, like, seriously. I mean, I've said before, you can mess with me, but you mess with my boys. Big mistake. Big mistake. And now that they're older, that's what they say. You mess with my mum, you mess with us. That's a big mistake. Aren't I lucky I have two boys? But again, it's like this is why last week I invited you to write down everything that you've been through in life year by year, or you've done a year, and like look at it month by month. Really get present to how amazing you are, and really get present to who you want to be, and how all of the things that have happened in your life have been edging you and guiding you towards this highest version of self. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a writer. It doesn't mean that you are going to be a musician unless you want to. And the whole point of this literary lounge is for you, it's not just about reading books or writing books. It's about you creating the life that you love, because being literate means you're literate in your field of expertise. I'm not technically literate to the degree that Manhoff Dave is. I'm not technically literate like my sons. I'm analog native. They were born digitally native. They look at technology and it's all figured out. I look at it and I'm like, okay, can you take over? I just hand my phone to them. I'm not ballet dancer literate. I'm not musically literate. Put songs on or tunes on that I love and my body just goes, oh, I like this, I'm going to dance. Or my voice just wants to start singing. Yes, I fluff my words. I mean, you heard it just before the last song. But this is the thing. It's about you really embracing yourself and trusting yourself that everything that you've learned means you're not going to be fooled by anybody ever again. You're not going to be taken advantage of ever again. And if you do get taken advantage of again, you've now got all of this experience behind you to be able to spot it quicker, notice it, grow from it, and put boundaries in place and go, actually, not again. You learn quicker. But you can only really do that I believe you can only really do that when you look at your own narrative, when you look at the story that you're telling yourself, which is why I always say writing or journaling, it's one of the best ways to do it, because when you pour out all of those negative things about yourself, or the negative things that you think about yourself, and then once you've written them down in sentences, you then rewrite them as a positive. This is still literature. This is you still taking a grasp of language and converting it from a negative into a positive, and you are turning your pain into your power. And I really want you to go into the weekend feeling that, you can achieve anything. Like I said, I've recommended some really great books today. I hope I've played songs that have really inspired you, and, that allowing you to think a little bit differently, introduced you maybe to a couple of new artists, but really to help you connect with the reinvention of yourself. Whether that is becoming an actor in each different part of your life until you've borrowed the confidence of that character you're playing. There's this thing, fake it till you make it. And I agree with that to a point. But if you embody the person that you want to be, and you start surrounding yourselves with the type of people you want to be around, if you start, there's this one lady, Isabel Lorna on Instagram, I think I mentioned her before, save the pennies and the Porsche will buy itself. When I went to see Devil's Wears Prada, they were selling this popcorn case. It was a bag and it cost $34.99. People were buying it. Now, I get that that's a treat for them, but it's just plastic. It's just a lump of plastic that they put popcorn in. And some people weren't even wanting the popcorn. They just wanted the bag. What are they going to do with it when they get home? And it's by spending money on things like that and not your education or on your healthy food or on the things that are going to help you level up your life that's going to keep holding you back. When you fill your world with things that don't elevate you or don't nourish you into becoming the highest version of self, then you're stealing from yourself. You are becoming a fool to other people's agendas. You're helping making other people rich, and you're allowing them to take up space in your life. And so this next track that I'm going to play, take us into the weekend. It's by an artist that I've come to love him very much. Well, his music anyway. I don't know him. I wouldn't know how to make him a cup of tea. But it's a guy called Parov Stella. And this one's called Nobody's Fool. And I really want you to not be somebody else's fool. I want you to fall in love with yourself and really embrace the life you want. And that's me wrapping up this show for this week. And I wish you a really, really great weekend. Take care, guys.
You've been listening to the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff at 98.7 FM and DAB Radio. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be with you again next week.